Chilling details of Putin and Kim's talks as North Korean despot grills Vlad on rockets and praises sacred war with West. Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-Un vowed to fight a sacred battle against the West after having talks and a lunch in Kim Jong-un's honor. The North Korean leader told Putin that he was sure that the Russian army and people would triumph against evil in a 2-hour meeting. The leaders are believed to have carried out sanctions-busting negotiations on supplying weapons to bolster Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Kim was pictured waving goodbye as he departed after the meeting and boarded his bullet train. The pair followed their deliberations with a decadent Bond villain-style banquet in Kim Jong-un's honor. Kim told Putin via a translator that he was sure that the Russian army would triumph against evil. Later, Putin raised a toast to the future strengthening of cooperation and friendship between our countries. For the well-being and prosperity of our nations, for the health of the chairman and all of those present. While the exact details of their discussions are not known, Putin did reveal that Kim showed a particular interest in the Russian space program. Kim and Putin were only expected to speak today, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said, and the North Korean dictator will return home soon. It is thought that Kim planned to offer his aging Soviet-era weapons to Vlad to aid in his fight in Ukraine. The meal the two leaders shared on Wednesday is said to feature a salad of duck, fig and nectarine, followed by Russian pelmeni dumplings made with Kamchatka crab, and then a white amur fish soup and a sorbet from sea buckthorn. For the main course, the leaders had a choice of sturgeon with mushrooms and potatoes or marbled beef with grilled vegetables. For dessert, they were offered red bilberries from the taiga with pine nuts and condensed milk. The North Korean leader arrived at the Vostochny Cosmodrome on his armored train on Wednesday morning after crossing into Russia the day before. Putin told Kim he was very glad to see him, while the North Korean despot thanked Putin for the invitation to Russia. Speaking at the space base prior to their one-on-one chat, Putin told reporters that the pair would discuss all the issues at their meeting. Asked if Russia would help Kim build satellites, Putin replied, "That's why we came here." The leader of the DPRK shows great interest in rocket engineering. They are also trying to develop space. North Korea experienced failures in recent months as it tried to place a spy satellite into orbit, but has vowed to try for a third time in October. Kim's space ambitions are likely tied to his efforts to develop more powerful intercontinental ballistic missiles that are designed to reach the U.S. mainland, as space launch rockets share the same core technologies with those weapons, experts say. Some analysts say Kim could also seek Russian help in developing ballistic missile submarines and nuclear propulsion submarines. Still, it would take considerable time, resources and technological improvements for the heavily sanctioned nation to build a fleet of at least several submarines that could travel quietly and execute attacks reliably. The Sun told earlier how Putin is looking for partners in destruction after isolating from most of the world. With Russia expert Keir Giles saying Moscow and its allies are a coalition of countries that want to bring down the world order as we know it. He said, if Russia now decides that it no longer needs to be a party to the sanctions on North Korea that were supposed to prevent it from developing nuclear weapons, then that is a major step forward to destabilizing the situation in the Far East. During their tour of the Cosmodrome, Kim told Putin that Russia was fighting a sacred war with the West and he would always support Putin. Russia has risen to a sacred fight to protect its sovereignty and security against the hegemonic forces, Kim told him. We will always support the decisions of President Putin and the Russian leadership. And we will be together in the fight against imperialism. Kim, who rarely leaves his country, is reportedly willing to hand Putin artillery shells and anti-tank missiles in exchange for satellite and nuclear submarine technology. The White House has warned that arms negotiations between North Korea and Russia are actively advancing. In return for ammunition, North Korea will likely want shipments of food and energy and transfers of sophisticated weapons technologies. It's unclear how far Kim and Putin's military cooperation could go, but any sign of warming relations will worry rivals like the US and South Korea. The meeting of the two tyrants came just an hour after North Korea fired 2 ballistic missiles off its east coast. It appeared to be the first launch to happen while Kim was abroad for a rare trip with most of his top military leaders. The missiles were launched from near the North Korean capital of Pyongyang, and flew about 404 miles, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said. Kim arrived in the country late on Tuesday on his armored bulletproof train, along with his sister Kim Yo-jong, who also holds a lot of power in the North Korean regime. His sister was seen beaming as her brother met the Russian president, and has even been rumored to be next in line to rule the country. The dictator was pictured upon his arrival in Vladivostok surrounded by briefcase-wielding guards as a Russian minister shook his hand. International relations expert Sergei Radchenko yesterday told The Sun, the issue at stake is whether North Korea sends weapons to Russia. If it does, it would be a relatively important development, with implications for the war in Ukraine. Russia's Mad Vlad has a collection of terrifying superweapons as well as almost 6,000 nuke warheads at his disposal. Kim Jong-un's most formidable weapon is likely the Hwasong-18 intercontinental ballistic missile, which launched earlier this year. As the meeting began this morning, Ukraine launched a deadly attack on Russia's fleet in Sevastopol, Crimea. And as Putin and Kim sat down for talks, Russia announced a separate visit by the Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi to Moscow. He will visit the Russian capital on September 18 for talks with his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov.